Fantastic, everybody. So I can see that that's live now, and I can see the attendees room is filling up, which is great news. So, look, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Topic, medicinal cannabis and your practice, and really tips to maximise your clinic offering and enhance your practice knowledge. Joining me today, I've got a couple of guest presenters that I'll allow them to introduce themselves. So firstly, thank you very much for joining us, Lisa. Are you able to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, thanks, Liam. So my name is Lisa and I'm the founder and CEO of RxTro Dispensary. So we're a dispensary and clinic that are located across Australia. So we've got our flagship site based in Melbourne, but we've also recently launched a site in Byron Bay, and hopefully a few more across Australia in the coming years. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. And secondly, joining me here today is Hendrik.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Liam, and thank you everyone for having me. As it says on the screen, I'm the National MSL Manager for the CanView team. We are a team that's scattered across Australia, calling on doctors and specialists on a daily basis. The team is product agnostic, but also helps with education and just helping doctors when it comes to the medicinal cannabis space and when it comes to prescribing to patients. So thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. And just finally, so my name's Liam. I'm from the platform called RxTro, which was an online tool that we'll walk you through today, which essentially allows life science professionals to connect with medical professionals in a way that they want to. So just to give you an overview of essentially what we're going to go through over the next 20 to 25 minutes, firstly, just quickly to touch on exactly what RxTro is. But then, as I say, invited Lisa and Hendrik really to give us a quick overview of the current trends that we're seeing in the cannabis market and medical cannabis prescribing. Finally, what we'll do is we'll close showing you how RxTro can help you to support your engagement with the medicinal cannabis industry, and then obviously open up to any questions that people might have. So firstly, as I said, look, RxTro, it's a platform and it's a tool that fundamentally is aimed at seamlessly connecting life science professionals with medical practices. We started in 2012, so we've been around for over 10 years now. And really what it was aimed at was replacing the paper planners that we saw in surgeries. But 10 years later and over 2 million HCP discussions facilitated, really what we're moving to is a piece of software that allows you to set up your preferences and really make sure that you get the most out of your valuable time. So with that, I'll hand over to Lisa, who will give you a little bit of an overview of her business.
Thanks so much, Liam. So as mentioned before, my name is Lisa and I'm the founder of RxTro Dispensary. And really what we are is a pharmacy and clinic model that is specializing purely in medicinal cannabis. A little bit of background on myself. I've been in the cannabis industry for almost 7 years. Can you believe it? If you flick over to the next slide, basically the medical cannabis industry has been around for about 8 years. It was legalized almost 8 years ago, and we've seen a huge rise in patient numbers, but also we've seen a huge rise in doctors prescribing, and also a big trend in pharmacists becoming more familiar and more comfortable dispensing medicinal cannabis as well. I actually used to work for a medicinal cannabis company, so I've seen all kind of facets of the industry. So I've worked as someone that represented a product, but I also I now own my own dispensary and clinic as well. So I understand what it's like for clinics to have a lot of supplies come and wanting to book in, and clinics not having enough time to actually see all the supplies, particularly in a market now where there's so many products. So on this slide, it says that there's over 450 medicinal cannabis products in the market. There's probably more now, to be honest. In our inventory alone, we have over 750 different SKUs, which is really, really crazy. And I have a team of 10 pharmacists, 5 doctors and 5 nurses that help patients learn and access medicinal cannabis every single day. And even for us as a dispensary and clinic that actually specializes in medicinal cannabis, it's really confusing as well. And so one of the tools that we started doing recently is actually utilizing RxTro. And so why that's important for us is because for us, as someone that purely specializes in medicinal cannabis, quality use of medicines is really, really important. And so in order to do that, we want to have the ability and the power to actually choose who we want to talk to in a space where there's over 450 people. We can't speak to everyone. We don't have the time. And as a clinic that sees patients every day, we have to prioritize patients as well. And so there's very little time for us to actually spend time with suppliers. And so we need to really be quite strategic about who we can and can't see. But in using RxTro, we actually can deselect or select suppliers we want to speak to. And even further to that, we can actually specify what kind of products or strains or oils or vapes that we actually want to talk about specifically, so that we're actually getting the most out of our time. And so this little graph, little flow chart here represents the kind of flow. So in a market where there's a lot of medicinal cannabis suppliers, all the medicinal cannabis suppliers can register onto RxTro as well, so they can actually be part of that platform. And then for us as a clinic and a pharmacy, we can log on and actually see which doctor wants to see which supplier, or what time and date are we available for us to see certain suppliers, and we can deselect or select who we want to see. And that way we can still maintain education, which is a huge part of what we do. We do a lot of education for our own pharmacists, doctors and nurses, but also we use that knowledge to then teach our patients. So it's a fantastic platform.
Fantastic. And with experience from the other side of the platform, I'll hand over to Hendrik.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Liam. Yeah, so the market is changing quite drastically. In the last year, I would say the market has moved initially from SASB pathway to prescribe medicinal cannabis across to authorized prescribers. There are the two pathways to prescribe. So as you can see on the graph and the chart as well, it's just increasing year on year. More and more patients asking healthcare professionals about product, and more healthcare professionals upskilling themselves and getting educated around medicinal cannabis. As Lisa said, there's so many products in the market to choose from. So it is there's a lot of options for patients, for outcomes for patients that's been on products for a long time. Maybe it hasn't worked. So as you can see from the authorized prescriber chart, you can see more and more doctors are actually prescribing. I think almost 4,000 doctors already in Australia prescribing through the authorized prescriber pathway. Thank you, Liam. Good. Thank you so much. And then also just mentioning working with RxTro. We've been working with RxTro for the last period, and it is a great partnership to have to gain access to healthcare professionals, to get in front of them, to help when it comes to education and helping to prescribe. So with CanView, we are an ecosystem that enables doctors to prescribe medicinal cannabis as well. And thanks, Liam. Basically, just gives you a catalog of products that we distribute, with expiry dates, what's in stock, and then also with the filtering capability with doctors maybe that's new to prescribing medicinal cannabis. On the right, you can see you can filter with categories, conditions to treat, if it's a specific strain type you're looking for, after a price. So that was just a quick snapshot when it comes to CanView. It is an ecosystem, as I mentioned. It connects the patient, the doctor, and then the pharmacy. And on the screen that you can see, we've got an education library with a couple of courses on. So we've got a confident prescriber course for doctors that takes you through the journey from beginner to being a confident prescriber. There's also a confident dispensing course for pharmacists. On the screen, you can see the video library of some of the webinars that we host by industry professionals and experts and specialists. And then there's also free downloadables on the platform that's free to use by doctors, pharmacists, and patients. It's all about education, and more education to be confident when it comes to medicinal cannabis. So working with RxTro is getting in front of the right doctor at the right time to have these conversations when it comes to that point. So thanks for that, Liam. I think that was the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, thank you.
Fantastic. So no, absolutely. So look, as I say, really RxTro, it's about setting up your time to obviously get the most out of that. And a really important part of that is obviously being able to set up your preferences and nominate only the specific times with the specific people that are obviously interested in the specific audience. So the way the system works, look, there's over 40 different medicinal cannabis suppliers who are currently utilising the system to engage with GPs across the country. It's in every state and over 4,000 total suppliers on there. The way the system works, essentially within the within the system, you firstly set up your preferences, and everybody's grouped up into this high-level category. So we've got CPD providers, allied health, medicinal cannabis, and so forth. The purpose of today's webinar, really kind of with medicinal cannabis, once upon a time we used to group it in with pharmaceuticals, but it's now got its own category, so you can set up times specifically around this topic. When you nominate a time, you can either do it as a group or you can do it as an individual, and then you would just select the medicinal cannabis providers, so only that particular audience can book into that slot. To be in this category, we go through the process of making sure that just not anybody's in there. So our criteria for being admitted into that category is that they're listed by the TGA as a registered medicinal cannabis supplier. So in conclusion, look, medicinal cannabis is a category that we've seen has really grown over the last couple of years, and it's one that we've been trying to work out the best way to really position within our system, so that basically clinics get the most out of the time, as well as the suppliers are using the most out of the time. So fundamentally, you can log on today and set up these times, and obviously limit it to that. So really next steps, look, if you're a clinic that already has a RxTro account, you can actually set up a time straight away. So you can say, I want to set up a small group appointment at a particular time, and it's just for medicinal cannabis suppliers, or it might be an individual one-on-one appointment. If you don't have an account, it's really simple to create one, but look, we're always here and happy to help. So with that, look, happy to open up the floor to questions. And we've obviously got some great brains in the room, so it'll be good. If there's any questions, please push them through.
Any questions? Be good to know if anyone here has started prescribing medicinal cannabis.
So we've got one question that's come through, and it's essentially what the key difference between the SASB and the Authorised Prescriber registration is. So maybe maybe both Lisa and Hendrik, if you both want to answer, and maybe we start with you, Lisa.
Yeah, sure. So the difference between the Authorised Prescriber scheme and the Special Access scheme is that the doctors, you have to essentially apply for one SASB application at a time on an individual patient basis for a specific indication. And once you become a bit more experienced and you have a cohort of patients that you want to prescribe to, say you've got a lot of chronic pain patients, you can become an authorised prescriber for chronic pain. And you submit that application to the, an ethics committee and then the TGA, and then you can receive that overarching approval. And the main benefit to a prescriber is that you don't have to wait for a SASB approval to come back from the TGA before you issue a prescription. And as an authorised prescriber, you can actually write a prescription on the spot because you've got an overarching AP approval already. And also you can send that, if you have a specific pharmacy that you work with, you can send that AP document to that pharmacy. They can have it on hand. And so they don't always have to keep asking you for additional paperwork in order to dispense a prescription. Whereas a SASB prescription must always have a SASB letter plus a prescription in order for a pharmacist like myself to actually legally dispense it.
Yeah, fully agree with that, Lisa, and 100% spot on. The only thing I would like to add to the authorized prescriber pathway is your 6-monthly TJ reporting. So when you're an authorized prescriber, every 6 months there is a report that you need to send to the TGA. But other than that, yeah, fully agree. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Liam.
Great question, though.
Fantastic.
Any other questions, guys?
So there has been another question. So essentially, the question has been that one of the GPs prescribed the first patient yesterday. The feedback was that it was a bit of a confusing process, and the question is, will RxTro make it easier? So maybe I'll just answer the first part of that, and I might hand over to you, Hendrik. So essentially what RxTro is about setting up your time for either face-to-face or virtual meetings with suppliers. Now, there's over 40 different suppliers who are looking to use RxTro to meet with people who've essentially nominated their time to make available. Now, one of the suppliers is Hendrik from CanView, and Hendrik, to the point around being a confusing process and making it easier, I think that's possibly where you can
yeah, shed some light. Thank you, Liam. Sure. Yeah. So with CanView, we distribute more than 290 SKUs. We've partnered with more than 27 suppliers out there. So with CanView, it is a SaaS-B. Essentially, it is a platform that enables doctors to prescribe. So how it works, essentially, very top line is the doctor can either prescribe via the SaaS-B pathway or the Authorise Prescriber pathway via our platform. The doctor then can send the script to a pharmacy like RxTro, one of 4,000 pharmacies that we have. So basically, it's an ecosystem that connects the doctor to the patient and to the pharmacy. That script can then be sent to the pharmacy as RxTro, and then RxTro then can dispense that product. So essentially, we're trying to make it as easy as possible, because there's a couple of things in the past that has happened where a doctor, as an example, would prescribe a product. That script will then get to the pharmacy, the product might be out of stock, etc. And then if it was a SaaS-B pathway, the doctor then has to go back to the SaaS-B, go through the TJ process again to get a new product. So with our platform as well, it shows you the expiry dates for products, what's in stock, out of stock, or low in stock, and that just enables doctors to have the visibility of those products as well. So we're trying to make it as smooth as possible, because yes, when you start prescribing, it is quite confusing initially. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. And Lisa, maybe there's also something you would like to add as well.
Yeah, so I think that like you're spot on, Hendrik. I think as a doctor who's very early on in your journey and you're starting out the prescribing process, I think where both RxTro, CanView, and RxTro all fit in is at the start of the journey. It starts with RxTro. So you log into RxTro and you book in an appointment with a CanView representative, and they're experts in actually navigating this whole process to make it super easy for you to understand how to prescribe. And then once they've held your hand through that process, either by them coming in personally and seeing that doctor that needs assistance, or logging onto the platform and accessing the education material, doctor will then get approval with either by SaaS-B or by AP. And then it's as simple as nominating to a pharmacy like RxTro or one of the 4,000 other pharmacies, and the patient can get it dispensed. Very high level summary.
Fantastic. No, absolutely. Fantastic. Happy with the answer. Excellent. So there's one other question that can come in, which is essentially, does RxTro give you the ability to opt in or opt out of specific suppliers? And the answer to that is yes. So within that, you make it an appointment time available to the medicinal cannabis category. But within that, if there's specific types of suppliers that you're really keen to hear from, because even within that category, it is very diverse, then obviously you can tick and flick where you need to.
I can talk to that a little bit as well, Liam, in that in our personal experience, I get approached by medical cannabis suppliers every single day. So they would just rock up to our clinic or dispensary, and we don't have time. So we just tell them, look, we can't see you. You just have to either email us or go onto RxTro, and then when we're ready, we'll come to you. And also, because we deal with so many suppliers, we don't want to see everyone. And so this platform is really great because we can actually specifically nominate who we want to see and then allocate our resources accordingly.
Fantastic. There's a couple more questions that have come in. So one of them is, where are you based? So probably where do you service? So look, firstly, RxTro is based in Sydney, but services nationally. And Lisa and Hendrik, if you...
So RxTro, we've got our pharmacy based in Melbourne, in South Yarra. and also one in Byron Bay. But we also service nationally because we also have an online dispensary as well.
Yeah, from mine, we've got 2 distribution centers, one in Burleigh, Queensland, and then one in Melbourne. And then I've got MSLs across Australia to service doctors. So also utilizing RxTro to make appointments. As Lisa said, I'm sure there's so many suppliers out there that needs or wants access. So yeah, we across Australia and using RxTro to gain access to effectively the HCPs.
Fantastic. There's another question that's come in around potential issues with driving and medicinal cannabis. So I'm not sure who'd like to go first on that one.
Oh, it's a big question. Hendrik, I'll start and then Hendrik, you can close. But essentially, driving is a really, really big issue and a barrier for patients accessing medicinal cannabis at the moment. We see it every single day and it still breaks my heart. And it's essentially it is a policy problem at the moment. Essentially, patients cannot drive with THC in the system, whether it's legal cannabis or illicit cannabis. And currently, the regulators can't differentiate. So patients do get pulled over, and they do get tested. There's no way of differentiating whether it's from a legal prescription that they've been attaining or whether it's from black market cannabis. And so that's the real problem that we're facing at the moment. And so it's a black and white rule. Just don't drive if you have THC in your system. Am I missing anything, Hendrik?
Lisa, fully agree and spot on. Yeah, it is definitely a no-go with driving when on THC. CBD is fine, but yeah, it is definitely part of the legislation. It's black and white, it's law. So yeah, that's basically what it is.
Fantastic. Another question that's come in. So the question around distribution. So is it distribution of the question is it distribution of cannabis or oil? So once again,
I wouldn't mind going with this one. So yeah, so basically with CanView, we do distribute oil and flower, CBD, THC, also vape products as well. So yeah, with the distribution, we also distribute across Australia, including Tassie. So I think that's the easy answer from my end. Lisa, over to you.
Yeah, so essentially the supply chain looks like in Australia is that there's a cannabis supplier. Cannabis suppliers get stored in a distribution center such as CanView, and myself as a pharmacy, I would order from CanView, and those are the product ranges that are available. So there's a lot of different formulations. So there's flower, oils, vape cartridges, lozenges, wafers, depending on the type of medication that is needed for the patient. But everything is available through our distributor, CanView.
Fantastic. There's a question that's actually come from 2 people. It's the same question. How long will it stay in the system or detectable after last use?
Hendrik, you want to go?
Lisa, I think I'm going to give this one to the expert. I know it stays in your system for quite a while. I'm not 100% sure exactly how long, but yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your metabolism. They say around 12 or so hours, but everyone's metabolism is very different. Cannabis is fat soluble as well, so it just really depends on how your body breaks down things as well. But the general rule of thumb is around 12 or so hours.
There's another question that's come in. It's basically asking about the price of products, and is there a page showing essentially what's able to be distributed?
Hendrik?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so on the CanView platform, once installed and used by the HCP or the pharmacist, we have, as I said, just over 290 SKUs that we distribute. So on CanView on the platform, we have got a catalog of all the products that's available that we distribute. It also shows if it's a flower, if it's an oil, if it's THC, CBD, and then also with the vape products. So yeah, so we've got that in the catalog from a CanView perspective. Lisa, over to you. Not sure how you guys do it from your end.
Yeah, so once we do receive a prescription from a clinic, and it doesn't have to be from our clinic, we also accept prescriptions from other clinics as well. We do a 15-minute counselling session with the patient where we go through how to use the product, what it's used for, how it's absorbed, and how much things cost, and if there's a way for reimbursement, because it is a non-PBS prescription. And so sometimes some health insurance providers do cover the cost, but we go through all the costings with the patient at that point. Some doctors we are noticed do want to know the cost of the medications ahead of time, so that they can be more transparent with the patient from the beginning, which I totally understand. And so if that does happen, you can always reach out to us, and we can provide you with access to our inventory and also our price list as well. And most pharmacies, if you give them a buzz, they'll let you know what the price is. But I think on CanView, there's already an approximate price to patient.
Fantastic. There's a question here around which product doesn't have psychotropic effects.
Hendrik, you can take this one.
I was about to say this, I want to give it to the expert. Yeah, that's a hard one to answer from my end, to be honest.
So the THC is the active ingredient that does have the ability to cause psychotropic effects, although I would say that in medicinal form, it's like pretty rare that it does have psychotropic effects. So THC is that element that has that profile. CBD, though, doesn't have a psychotropic profile. So it doesn't have the ability to cause hallucinations or dizziness or make you feel groggy at all. Like CBD has a pretty good safety profile.
Fantastic. Couple of other probably comments, but essentially just to say that it seems that there's still a long way to go with the government. Do you have anything to sort of add to that? Do you sort of see where this sort of evolve into the future?
I mean, I've been in the industry for almost 7 years, so in cannabis land, it's a long time. And I think that we have grown a lot exponentially in the last, I would say, 5 years. And that is from an industry perspective, also from a clinical trial perspective as well. So when I started in the industry, there was only one clinical trial for chronic non-cancer pain that was around at that time. And now there's so many trials, both domestically in Australia, but also internationally as well. And some of them are producing some pretty good results. And in Australia, we're a medical market, so we're looking for that really robust, RCT data in order for us to make this something that we can list on the PBS. And I think we're getting there. It just takes a bit more time.
Slowly but surely, we're getting there, Lisa.
Yeah.
Fully agree with that analysis. But yeah, industry, as I said, want to work with government as well moving forward. But as Lisa has mentioned, tremendous exponential strides has been made in the last couple of years. So let's see what the future holds.
Fantastic. And maybe just final question, just to wrap things up. It is along the lines of there's actually two questions that are sort of along the same lines, but essentially, once again, it sort of relates to the driving. So I guess the question is, even with CBD oil, what's the status with driving? And then fundamentally, so if a patient was to use a CBD oil for a night's sleep, we should assume that they would not be able to drive to work in the morning.
Yeah. So I can take this one. So there's different types of CBD. So it's usually broken down to a few different categories, but there is CBD isolate, CBD broad spectrum, and CBD full spectrum. Now, anything that has trace THC or any THC, even if it's 0.001%, patients cannot drive on it. And 0.001% is not going to do anything to them. It's not going to make them impaired at all. But legally speaking, like as healthcare professionals, we cannot recommend patients to drive on that medication. However, if we are prescribing something that is CBD isolate, where we can guarantee that it does not have any THC, even if we are prescribing it for sleep, then at that point we can recommend patients to drive on that medication. But that's something that the pharmacist should always be checking before they dispense the medication, because we would also always put a label, a sticker on there to remind them whether they can or can't drive, and would also go through that counselling with them before we hand out the medication as well.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, look, once again, just love to thank everybody for joining. I know that everybody's time is very precious, so giving up the time in the middle of the day, thanks once again. Thank you once again to our guest presenters, Lisa and Hendrik. You've definitely, there's been a lot of questions, so obviously you've really hit on a big need there. So thanks once again, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.